So in what I think is my last video, I showed off this Symantec NetBackup 5230 server. I got this from my friend's dad for absolutely free. It's about 80 plus terabytes, or at least it was. You can see I only have one of the arrays in this 5242U server rack. That is because I sold one of them to some friends for about 500 bucks. So currently what's left over is one of the two 48 terabyte arrays and the server itself. So if I go ahead and pop the cover off the server, you can see, of course, we have 12 drive bays. There are 16 in the bottom in the array below it, if I just take the cover off here. So as you can tell by the title, we are going to be replacing these 1 terabyte drives with 3 terabyte drives. I also did some research on processor upgrades for this machine. It currently has dual E5-2620s, which are 95 watt, 6 core, 12 thread, 2 gigahertz processors. I spent about 90 bucks on 2 of these as the light washes everything out. You can see we have 2 E5-2630L V2s. These are 60 watt, 2.4 gigahertz, 6 core, 12 thread processors. The major irony here being these are 35 watts more efficient and significantly more powerful than what is currently in the server. So I will be throwing those in here as well. So before we start all the upgrades, I want to get a benchmark for the power efficiency right now of this machine, and once all of the upgrades are completed, I will get another benchmark for the new system. And once all the upgrades are complete, I will get another benchmark to see the gained efficiency. The way I will get the numbers is through the management web UI. It has a sensor readout for both of the power supplies and the average power consumption and everything. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and start the server. The server is always comically loud when it starts up, so I have to get into the BIOS so I can get the IP address for the management interface because all of that changed. So I ended up changing around the drive configuration a little bit, and it's not really too happy. I'm going to go ahead and hit F2 to enter the BIOS. I did that off camera. So yeah, the RAID card has a built-in speaker, you can hear that, so that's fun. I think my mom's in bed right now too. Anyway, if we go into server management and then BMC LAN config, which I could have just hit the up arrow to go down there, 10.0.1.67. So I'm just going to do a screen recording for this. If we go to 10.0.1.67, we get into the Symantec remote management interface. So I'll just put in my password and username. And you can see we are in the interface. So something cool that I always love about this stuff is we can turn the server on remotely. So if you listen in the background, perform action. So yeah, the server is now on. We did that all remotely. So if we go to server health and I guess power statistics, I believe it is. It takes a bit sometimes. You can see we have our power statistics. So I'm going to screenshot those quickly. And I thought I'd turn that alarm off, but I guess not. So obviously upgrading hard drives is nothing spectacular. I'm just going to do all that off camera. Like I said, all 10 of these drives plus these 2 blank slots are going to be filled with these 3 terabyte drives from the array. These are HGST drives. They're used. They're from 2013. But, I mean, they all seem fine. So I'm just going to be using those until all of them are dead. I'm also going to keep the 4 in the bottom as spares or some other use drives, and then the 1 terabytes are also going to be for archiving and stuff like that. So I just finished swapping all the drives in. That took about 40 minutes because all of the screws were like super torqued and everything, and it was a pretty big pain, honestly. So now the last thing we're going to do is the CPU upgrade, of course. So I'm going to remove this air baffle. I also have SSD power cables and stuff that I want to populate that with, but that's for later. So with the heat sinks unscrewed, we can just lift them off, and you can see there we have our E5-2620s. So I'm going to go ahead and use some toilet paper here to wipe off the existing thermal compound, and before you yell at me in the comments for using a cloth that is not lint-free, just honestly, like, it's fine. I've never really had an issue with it, so don't worry about it. At least I'm not spreading the thermal compound with my thumb or something. And one day eventually I will get lint-free cloth for stuff like this. But of course I am a super low budget operation, and toilet paper is just what I have on hand. You can see at some point I repasted the processors with the HY710 stuff I have. It's what I use for everything nowadays. It's kind of all I have left over. And you know, it works fine, so I'm just going to keep using it till I run out. Funny story, the processor upgrades actually arrived with a small syringe of that stuff. Come to think of it, I don't really have to do that good of a job with wiping these CPUs off, because I'm not going to be reusing them. I'm actually sending them to a friend, and he will probably clean them off and repaste them anyway. So this last processor is probably fine just to leave without the rubbing alcohol, though I think I'll use it once or twice just to clean off the socket, just in case there's any left over. Sorry for the background noise, my furnace is on. It's a Michigan winter, so I kind of have to have that going. So right now I'm just cleaning off the heat sinks as well. I'll just kind of cut the video up and get it nice and short for everyone. So this is just about the cleanest I'm going to get everything. It's fine though. I only applied this thermal compound 2 months ago. As little as is left over, it should be fine. So with that, I'm going to open up both of the processors. So I'm just going to cut along the edge there and have the debris go flying into the server. And you can see there we have one E5-2630L V2. I think these were going for $48, and I offered $45 for 2 of them, or $45 per each for 2 of them. And the seller accepted, and they arrived about 3 days later. So with that all taken care of, we can go ahead and remove each of the processors. I'm being very careful with the socket because if I damage it, I am going to be forever mad at myself. So there is one in place. We can go ahead and close the retention arms, which you need a ton of force to do, even though they're called zero insertion force, so that's fun. And then the other processor, same process, no pun intended. These chips are absolutely huge, by the way. You never really get a true understanding of how big these are, actually, until you hold one. So with that all done, all we have to do is apply our thermal compound, which I'm going to be relatively generous with, given the bigger processor. That one probably has a bit much, but that's fine. And I think the orientation of the heatsink is this way, but they're pretty much symmetrical, so it should be fine whichever way I put it on. And then I'm going to go ahead and tighten those screws off camera. So with those installed, we can go ahead and put the air baffle back on as I kick the tripod. You can also hear my network switch running in the background. It should turn off in a sec. And this air baffle is always a bit tricky to get in there. That network switch I actually got from work a couple months ago. They just gave it to me. It's a 48 port GS748T V5. So it's a very nice switch. I'm really happy with it. And another thing I'm really happy with is that the server upgrade is basically done now. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the top cover back on and get everything plugged back in, and I will continue the video when it's time to start the server. Alright, time to start everything up. We have no warning lights yet, so that's a good sign. Well, everything seems to be going well so far. Another thing that's pretty cool is all of the drive bays are lit up there. So anyway, I am going to let this finish booting and we can go ahead and check out the management interface and see everything going on. So the kind of funny thing here is our power consumption actually seems to be a bit higher. If I find the original screenshot, you can see it looks like all of our values went up, but I think that's because of the increased hard drive everything, and I'm sure having the lower power processors in there helps with this a lot. So you can see here, Intel Xeon CPU E5-2630L V2, 24 cores. Of course we have 24 threads there, so that's why it says 24. And our drive information for our original drive pools is gone because all of those drives are just like not there. In an upcoming video I'm going to flash the RAID card in the server to IT mode, and that will allow us to pass the bare drive through to the operating system. So yeah, for now I am just going to shut off the server and continue from there. So I would call that a rather successful upgrade. The increased power consumption is kind of a concern of mine, because that was obviously like the opposite of what I wanted to have happen. But I'm just going to blame that on the increased drives, and I'm probably going to take out like 6 of them for now until I need the space. Another thing is I have been really bad at uploading recently. It's been a month since my last video, and that was after like a 4-month hiatus. So I want to like apologize that. So I have been really busy with school lately, and I graduate from my high school in a week from today, and then I finish that cybersecurity class at the end of May. And so until next week, I'm going to be really busy with school, of course, with graduating early and everything. And then at that point, I am going to start with a lot of new computer projects, and yeah, so just kind of like bear with me. I'm sorry for not uploading and being really bad about that this year, but I have had a ton going on with everything, and I've been extremely busy. And I feel like I've said this a lot, and I'll probably make an update video as well, because a lot of stuff has changed over the past few months that I haven't talked about on the channel, and it just gets kind of confusing with a bunch of projects from a month ago being uploaded now versus now being uploaded 4 months from now or whatever. And yeah, everything's just super unorganized. So anyway, like I said, I'll make an update video probably, and hopefully soon I can return to a rather normal upload schedule and I can increase the quality of my content and everything, which is something I've been really kind of worried about, but of course I haven't really had the resources to deal with it yet. So yeah, with that said, I think that's going to be it for this video. So thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. So it's been about 3 months, but you can see we have our RAID card that's like an Intel RAID module, and it uses the LSI 2208 SAS controller. I have like a couple hours of video filmed from me trying to flash that, and I never got it to work. So I bought a 9211 8i, and I'm just going to install that quickly before I finish the video. So the 9211 8i just came in the mail, and I have it installed in the bottom slot there. Technically that's slot 3, and 1 and 2 will be empty in the deployment, but that's just kind of how the SAS cables fit, and I have it installed like I said. So we're going to go ahead and turn this on. So before, when I turned it on, the fans would not slow down, but that's because there was no RAID card controlling the back plane or whatever, you get what I'm saying. And I also get this warning light, so that's kind of annoying, but whatever. So we're going to go ahead and turn it on now. So it is now September 2nd. I believe I started filming this video in like January, but I want to have this video out next week and it's almost done editing, so I'm just gonna finish it off here. So you can see on the back here, we have the RAID card plugged into the top slot there. I believe that's slot 6. I got the numbering wrong. So the ordering basically goes slot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and so it's in slot 6 right now. The RAID card in the bottom isn't plugged into anything, but I have it in there to control the fans, because if you listen closely to the audio from the last clip, you can hear some of the fans ramp down and most of them stay on. And I think that has something to do with this cable here. This is a SAS cable that's always been plugged into the motherboard, and that controls this, and this drive, I believe. And then this one and the others are controlled by the RAID cards. So I figure if I have to have it plugged in there, eventually I'm going to get a SAS PCIe bracket and have it link up to the array that's down there. So with that said, I think that's all I have to say about the server. You can see the rack has changed a little bit, and I have it torn apart because some of the equipment's in my room right now. Also, one of the fans is dying. There's a really bad bearing noise. I believe it's this one. And eventually I'm just going to replace all these fans with something maybe quieter. I don't really know how I'm going to do that because I don't necessarily want the server to be quieter, if that means it's going to be overheating or whatever. So with that said, I think that's going to be it for this video. So thanks for watching. Thank you for being patient with my uploads and everything, and I will see you in the next video.